Or Nick, let's talk about the Oregon Ducks. Oregon, spring practice literally just started for the Ducks. They're about to get into full swing. We're going to hear a lot of great updates for them going forward. But one guy, one transfer that came to the school, I think it was a very controversial move at the time, already showing potential benefits, major positive here for the Oregon Ducks if everything works out. And it's already showing that it probably will for them as well. I think this is a great move, a great sign for the Ducks going forward. Before we dive into all that, though, I'm Andrew, that's Nick, and this is Saturday Morning Inspection. Nick, as I alluded to, the Oregon Ducks brought in a transfer this year, a little bit controversial. Bear Alexander from the Georgia Bulldogs. There's all the controversy last year of him, voluntarily redshirting himself that season. It was kind of a debacle, but we're talking about Georgia here. What do you expect with all of the, negative news is coming out of Georgia the last couple of years? Not very surprising. I think Oregon's going to be able to get under control, and it's already showing that they are gaining from it as well. Let's jump into the article and we can talk more about it on the other side. This is, of course, from UGA Wire. It says, former Georgia Bulldogs defensive tackle Bear Alexander, great name, actually love that name for a defensive tackle, has drawn rave reviews for his spring with the Oregon Ducks. Alexander transferred to Oregon this offseason after his controversial decision to voluntary redshirt in 2024 with the USC Trojans. To this point right now, Bear Alexander has been, I'd say, one of the hardest workers on our entire defense from an extra work and mental standpoint, said Oregon defensive coordinator Tosh Lapoy. All you can do is research the heck out of them, he said, about adding Alexander. Thankfully, we've got a lot of strong relationships at the University of Georgia, both myself and Coach Lanning, with our past experience. So there are some guys that we can trust, and we have faith in ourselves. If there are some concerns there, that's up to us as far as we make the decisions, and how can we attack that and challenge him. Seems like they've made the smart move here. Their research paid off. They're challenging him, they're attacking him, and it seems like he's done really great so far. I think this was a fantastic move in the beginning, and now it's showing to pay off for the Ducks. Curious what your thoughts are on this one, Nick, but before we get to you, Ducks fans, in the comment section below, I know the addition of Bear Alexander may be a little bit controversial at first. I'm curious what your thoughts are on it, but now that you've heard the news that it seemed to be paying off, he's working hard, the mental game is strong. What do you think about it now? Maybe give it a retroactive grade now that you heard the good news. Is it an A? You think it's going to pay off and you're going to have a dominant defensive lineman on your hands here? Is it a C? You still want to see how it goes, but maybe so far so good? Or is that an F? You think it's going to blow up in your face in the end here? Let us know what your thoughts are and everything with Bear Alexander in the comment section below. But nonetheless, Nick, what do you think about this latest news for the Ducks?
I think it's a great sign because I think the question with Alexander always, if you look back at his collegiate career, if you could call it that up to this point, is what is his mindset like? Does he really actually want to play college football? Or does he just want a guy that wants to be on social media? Not that he's like an influencer or anything, but just wants to hear his name in social media and just move around the country and get paid NIL dollars. And remember, this is not without precedent. Quinn Ewers, the quarterback for a long time, the last couple seasons with the Texas Longhorns, he had a lot of the similar criticism levied at him with how he handled things at Ohio State. There were a lot of reports that he was just in it to transfer. It was more just a YouTube quarterback kind of guy. Wasn't really keen on actually playing college football. Went to the Longhorns, went to an organization where it kind of fit for him, became kind of a leader, kind of matured a little bit, and then became a great player, did a lot of great things with Texas over the past couple of years. Now he's, of course, moved on to the NFL draft. I think Bear Alexander is kind of the next Quinn Ewers. So, of course, defensive tackle versus quarterback, but same kind of mindset. And let's not forget, these are still 18, 19-year-old kids here that are making these decisions, or at least making these decisions under the influence of people in their lives that we don't really know, right? You don't know if Bear Alexander, for example, the criticism against him for wanting to transfer, maybe it's because he got offered $500,000. I'm making up a number, but it's not implausible to transfer, out of USC or out of Georgia or whatever, and someone in his ear was like, "Hey, I need that money," a family member or a friend or something, and he feels like he had to do it, right? Yeah, we've never been in the situation before in college football, and most of the people that have been following it have never been in a situation, 18, 19 years old, where someone's going to write you a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars if you just, go to a different school or go to a different state. So let's not be too quick to bury Bear Alexander here. Now, eventually, you do have to show up, but you do have to play football. And so far, the fact that his work ethic is outstanding and the coaches are very impressed with it, I think is a great sign. It feels very similar to me, once again, to Quinn Ewers when he showed up in Austin. He did a great job in the weight room, won the teammates over, won the coaching staff over, became a leader, starting quarterback for the Longhorns. Bear Alexander still has a long way to go to become that for the Oregon Ducks, but I think the fact that he's putting in the work, I think is a good sign for him going forward. And let's not undersell the fact that Eugene is a different kind of place than Los Angeles and Athens, Georgia, with the Bulldogs, right? It is a football powerhouse. It is essentially the former Pac-12. It's the best team out of that conference by far at this point in the Big Ten. But the reality is, it still has that small town college football feel, and it doesn't have the SEC stupidity that can sometimes come out of. Look, I love the SEC. I'm not being mean to the SEC here. I'm just saying it can be kind of bonkers. Anyone who's followed SEC football can understand that in some ways. It is kind of a little bit tucked away in the Pacific Northwest. Maybe that'll help him out a bit, help him out a little bit. West Coast kid away from on the West Coast, but non-Los Angeles, which has its own problems. I think it's a good environment for Bear Alexander to grow and thrive. And look, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he becomes a superstar with the Oregon Ducks. And this is exactly the kind of move that Dan Lanning really needs to help shore up this defense. We saw it against Ohio State in both games, to be honest, but certainly in the playoff game. They're very good offensively. They've got enough talent to overload people on defense, but in those big moments, they need elite talent. Alexander has elite talent. If he can mature, and it looks like he is, he could be one of the key pieces on the Ducks defense to take them from a playoff team to a championship team.
Yeah, Nick, and I think we don't want to also undersell the fact here that if you look at Georgia's history as far as how they've cultivated players over the last couple of years,
Yeah.
the success has been good. They've obviously won back-to-back national champions, and they did really good stuff at Georgia. But there's been a litany of issues, and Kirby Smart. People say lost locker room. I don't think that's the case. I just think the locker room is not as contained as they want it to be, but he's able to steer the ship somehow through rough waters to be able to get to the destination they want to go. But you look at all of the stuff, all of the car related incidents at Georgia, all of the, whatever they got going on. I think that even later, there's today or yesterday, as far as the time of the filming of this video, another story came out about some other players being suspended from Georgia. It's a tough environment to be in, especially if someone, like you said, Bear Alexander seems like a guy, he's got a lot going on. There's been a lot going on for him in the past. So I think him coming to Eugene, being in this environment, is going to do him wonders. I almost kind of akin it to Jalen Carter coming out of Georgia at the end of his career. He was really kind of had so much going on. There's all these questions about his off the field issues, everything he had going on heading into the NFL. He's able to get picked up by the Philadelphia Eagles and come in and just do a lot of really good stuff there. There's a strong locker room presence. There's good leaders in on that defense side of the ball. And it seems like not only has he not really had any issues there, but he's able to perform at a high level. He's been a star at times on that Philadelphia Eagles defense. So I think this is a similar example here. I think Bear Alexander could be to the Oregon Ducks what Jalen Carter was to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's a star player. He has all the physical tools. His giftedness on the football field has never been the question. It's always been a little bit of off-field stuff that has been the issue here. Where was his mindset at? I think we're hearing now the mindset's good. So if the Ducks can keep steering this ship in the right direction, talking about Bear Alexander, they're going to get themselves one heck of a player out of it.
And yeah, it's one of those things where let's not be, you look at what happened at Georgia with Bear Alexander. That was a super talented team, but a locker room with issues. He goes to the Trojans on the West Coast, right? He's a Texas kid. He goes to the West Coast, tries out Los Angeles, and he just doesn't like Lincoln Riley, doesn't like the defensive strategy there, doesn't like the depth chart there. And look, the Trojans were terrible defensively anyway, so you can kind of understand a little bit where he's coming from, right? And then he goes to Eugene, and now he's busting his butt and working hard, and all the coaches love him. Sometimes it's about fit more than just about a guy that's one size fit all. And you brought up Jalen Carter to Philadelphia, the culture, the environment, the talent, the coaching already with the Philadelphia Eagles at the National Football League. We forget sometimes that a lot of these players at both the pro level and the college level, if it's a bad player, and if it's a good player, I'm sorry, and a bad fit, it won't work out, right? You need to be in the right location, no matter how talented you are, no matter how gifted you are. You need to be in the right cultural fit, the right scheme fit, the right personnel fit. Everything needs to come together, and you need to be mentally and physically mature enough to take on that opportunity. Barry Alexander has been physically mature going back to high school, so that's not a problem. There's some question about maybe mental maturity, but based on what we're seeing, I don't think that's the issue, or it certainly isn't an issue anymore by the way he's putting in the time and effort. I just think he went to Georgia because it's the Georgia Bulldogs, and you brought up the fact they've got some legal issues there. It's the SEC, a lot of craziness going on, and I think it just wasn't a good fit for him. He tries to go to UCL, tries to go to USC out in Los Angeles. That wasn't a good fit for him. I think that was probably a personnel fit. The way the Trojans been trying to do things defensively, at least prior to this offseason, have been not very smart. So he takes the red shirt there, now goes, of course, on to Eugene. And just lo and behold, he gets into a good organization, good coaches, suddenly you start doing great things, right? And I think that's exactly what Bear Alexander needed. And I think this is one of the things that Dan Lanning does so well in terms of the culture fit, whether it was Bo Nix and Gabriel at the quarterback, now Bear Alexander as a defensive tackle, interior defensive lineman. He just has created such a strong culture. No matter assistant coaches seem to come and go, leaders come and go, but Lanning's environment that he set in place allows transfers to come in, fit in immediately, and start doing good things. I think a lot of credit needs to be given to Alexander for the effort he's putting in and the fact things are finally turning in the right direction for his collegiate career. But let's not forget, this is all due to one man, and that's Dan Lanning.